إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن نبينا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Brothers and sisters, alhamdulillah, we have reached verse number 21 in Surah al-Qasas. Musa alayhi salam has found himself in a difficult situation. He has found out that the nobles in the city, in the town, they want to kill him. And he is fleeing, he is leaving the city. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَخَرَجَ مِنْهَا خَائِفًا يَتَرَقَّبُ, that he leaves this city, خائف, being afraid, and يَتَرَقَّبُ, being vigilant, making sure that no one is following him. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions to us the dua that he makes. قَالَ رَبِّ نَجِّنِي مِنَ الْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ, O my Lord, save me from the wrongdoers. And what is interesting about this dua is that this dua is actually something that his stepmother, Asiya, radiallahu anha, that she mentions in Surah Tahrim when she says, نجني من فرعون وعمله ونجني من القوم الظالمين. So this is an echo, the same dua that is being said by the stepson, because Asiya, the wife of Fir'aun, she is a believer, or she becomes a believer later on, and she is almost like a role model for Musa alayhi salam from that young age. So Musa alayhi salam says this dua, placing his trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He does not know where to go, does not know what to do. He is completely at the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah azza wa jalla says, وَلَمَّا تَوَجَّهَ تِلْقَاءَ مَدْيَنَ, and when he faced in the direction of Madian, which was a city not too far away, he made a dua. He said, قَالَ عَسَى رَبِّي أَنْ يَهْدِيَنِي سَوَاءَ السَّبِيلِ, perhaps my Lord will guide me to the right way. And this is as he is setting his direction to Madian. And all that is happening before Musa alayhi salam becomes a prophet. He is not a prophet yet. He becomes a prophet later on. So this inclination that he has to go towards Madian, the scholars in Islam, they say this is a different type of wahi. This is more in the light of ilham, this intuition that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted the mother of Musa alayhi salam. He is granting Musa alayhi salam at this moment so that he goes in the right direction. So he sets his sights on Madian. And as he is traveling and he comes close to the city, he sees a very strange thing happening. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَمَّا وَرَدَ مَاءَ مَدْيَنَ, and when Musa alayhi salam came to the waters or the wells of Madian, because cities back in the day, they used to have common wells that people used to share. Until this day, in many parts of the world, you will see that one well with fresh water can help a whole village or part of a village. So Musa alayhi salam is encountering these people, and he sees وَوَجَدَ مِن دُونِهِمْ امْرَأَتَيْنِ تَذُودَانِ. Before that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَجَدَ عَلَيْهِ أُمَّةً مِنَ النَّاسِ يَسْقُونَ. He finds a group of people, men, who are giving water to their sheep, to their animals. يَسْقُونَ وَوَجَدَ مِن دُونِهِمْ امْرَأَتَيْنِ تَذُودَانِ. and he sees two ladies that are not close to the men, are apart from the men, and they're trying to control their sheep. And he asks a question. There's a lesson in this. In Islam, the interaction between genders, it is not haram. It is not haram. What is haram is the inappropriate interaction between genders. You see Musa alayhi salam here, he approaches the women in a respectful way, and he asks them a respectful question. مَا خَطْبُكُمَا? What is the matter? Is something wrong? What is happening? And the way that these women respond back is in an equally respectful way. Okay? There is no laughter, there is no giggling, there is no flirting, nothing like that. It is a simple question and they answer in a very respectful way. So when people say in Islam that men and women cannot communicate, which is part of the truth, but the full truth is to say that it is haram for a man and a woman to communicate in an inappropriate way. Because the wives of the Prophet alayhi salam, the Sahaba used to communicate with them. And when they were asked, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told them to ask min wara'i hijab, to ask behind the hijab. So Musa alayhi salam, he approaches these women, and these women, even though they seem to be young at age, they are very, very clever. They keep the speech incredibly short. Musa alayhi salam is a complete stranger. He's a non-mahram. On top of that, he's a complete stranger that they've just met, and they did not know him before. So when he asks what is wrong, they are careful in the way that they respond. They say, قَالَتَا لَا نَسْقِي حَتَّى يُصْدِرَ الرِّعَاءَ, that we cannot give water to our animals until these men finish up with their flock, meaning we have to wait our turn. And notice how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قَالَتَا, that both of them said, so they're speaking together, one helping the other, and it shows that they are vigilant, that they are on guard, and they are making sure that this man, whom they do not know is Musa, they do not know his character just yet, they want to set the tone straight from the very beginning. And they say, and they mention their father, because it is not usual for women to go by themselves, especially back in the day, to handle such a very labor-intensive work. So they say, وَأَبُونَا شَيْخٌ كَبِيرٌ, and our father is an old man, is an old man, and some scholars have said, meaning respectful man. So what does Musa alayhi salam do? He is in a part of the world where he does not know anyone and no one knows him. He is completely alone, away from family, away from people that he grew up with. Yet when he sees this opportunity, when he sees this opportunity of helping innocent people, helping people in need, he does not hesitate. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَسَقَالَهُمَا ثُمَّ تَوَلَّى إِلَى الظِّلِّ. So Musa alayhi salam is taking it upon himself as a single individual to make sure that the flock of both women, the animals, get water to drink. So it shows his strength and it shows his character. Now these two women are starting to notice that Musa alayhi salam is not like the other men. Because what did the other men of that area do? They were busy getting water for themselves. Not a single one amongst them even thought of the two young women that needed help. They were too busy helping themselves. But Musa alayhi salam, he was on the run. He was worrying about himself, yet when he saw an opportunity to help someone else in need, he did not hesitate. And afterwards, He does not engage in any more baseless talk. He does not even expect from them a thank you. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? فَسَقَى لَهُمَا ثُمَّ تَوَلَّى إِلَى الظِّلِّ. That as soon as he finished what he was doing in helping them, he retreated to the shade of a tree. And he sat down, he lay down to rest. So did Musa alayhi salam do it for himself? Did he do it for the family of these two girls? No. He did it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is something that is echoed, excuse me. This is something that is echoed in the Quran when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the pious, the righteous people. What is it that they say? They say, إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ. That we only feed you for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. لَا نُرِيدُ مِنْكُمْ جَزَاءً وَلَا شُكُورًا. We do not want from you any reward or even thanks. That is not why we're doing what we do. So you see this through the character of Musa alayhi salam. And then he makes dua and he says, رَبِّي إِنِّي لِمَا أَنزَلْتَ إِلَيَّ مِنْ خَيْرٍ فَقِيرٌ. A very simple dua, but because, as scholars have put it, the fact that Musa alayhi salam, what he did before by helping those two strangers, the two girls, for the sake of Allah, this empowered his dua and it made his dua more likely to be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it shows us that in Islam, if we want our dua, let's say there's something we want, and there's always something that we want. If you want your dua to be more likely to be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of the great ways is to precede that with a good deed, by helping others, by giving in charity, by visiting the sick, anything that is considered to be a good deed. If you precede your dua by doing a good deed, then it is more likely that your dua is accepted. And notice how the dua of Musa alayhi salam, he's saying, oh Allah, I am in need. Basically, he's saying, I am faqir, I am in need of any khair that you can send my way. But what was it that Musa alayhi salam did just before that? It was helping. So the simple lesson here is, if you want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help you, then you need to be ready to help others in return. So Musa alayhi salam did not just sit by himself worrying, but he actually took action. And he helped, and then he sought the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the two girls, the young ladies, and the women, they go back to their father, to their family. And they tell them about what happened. And the father is intrigued. He has not seen a man like the character of Musa alayhi salam, because most men, as we mentioned at that time, in that particular place, all they did was worry about themselves, and there was no one that even cared about these young women. So once the father hears about this man, he is so intrigued that he wants to meet this man. So he sends one of the girls, one of his two daughters, back to bring Musa alayhi salam. Some scholars might say that this is a test to see again the character of Musa alayhi salam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes this and says, فَجَاءَتْهُ إِحْدَاهُمَا عَلَى تَمْشِي عَلَى اسْتِحْيَاءٍ. That one of them came. We don't know which one, but one of them came back to Musa, who was still sitting or lying underneath that tree. And the way that she comes, تَمْشِي عَلَى اسْتِحْيَاءٍ, she comes in a very shy, very humble way. So notice here that the haya, the modesty, it is linked to the way that she walks. The way that she is walked is described by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be a modest way of walking. That itself shows us that modesty is a full package. We are modest in the way that we speak, the words that we use. We do not swear. We are modest in the way that we walk, the way that we interact. Yani the point here, brothers and sisters, is that modesty is not just the clothes that we wear, especially for sisters, because it is easy to think that modesty, haya, is all about the hijab. And that is why you will see someone who wears hijab but acts in a very immodest way. Yes, hijab is part of the modesty that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands, but there is a whole other aspect of modesty that I would argue is far greater. The way that you talk, the way that you carry yourself. So this woman, this lady that is coming back, just through her walk, you can tell that she is a lady, a modest lady. And the first thing that she says to Musa alayhi salam, she says, قالت إن أبي يدعوك. Verily, my father is calling you. In simple terms, she's setting the tone straight here. Again, she's not trying to open up a conversation. She's just passing on information, saying that my father wants to meet you. And she explains why. لِيَجْزِيَكَ أَجْرَ مَا سَقَيْتَ لَنَا, to reward you, to compensate you for helping us with the animals. فَلَمَّا جَاءَهُ وَقَصَّ عَلَيْهِ الْقَصَص قَالَ لَا تَخَفْ نَجَوْتَ مِنَ الْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ. And once he reached the house of that family and he met the old man, some scholars, they say his name was Shu'aib. Some people are confused because his name is Shu'aib and he is reported to live in Madian. So some people have thought that this is Prophet Shu'aib that is mentioned in the Quran in other parts. But most of the scholars, they actually say that this man is a different man. So this man is not Prophet Shu'aib, although that is an opinion that some scholars have mentioned. So he arrives, Musa alayhi salam arrives at the house, meets the old man, the father, and he explains the whole story, everything, from what happened, of the killing of the man, until that very moment. And this elderly man, he has this philosophy, this ability to see and to know just by the character of the person, if this person is truthful or not. And this is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses certain people with. So he reassures Musa alayhi salam. He says that after hearing all that, you can imagine how worried Musa alayhi salam is. He's on the run. Now he's got a chance to explain. He does not know this family. Maybe they'll report him. Maybe they'll tell him, we're working with the people of Fir'aun and you will be sent back. Anything could happen. But after hearing the whole story, the first thing the father says, he says, "La takhaf, do not fear." And that is almost, you can sense the fear being removed from a person when you reassure them and you tell them, "Do not fear." Najota, you have been saved from qawm al-zalimin, the wrongdoers. An important thing to add here that the scholars have mentioned is, and it adds to the character of Musa alayhi salam. When the young lady comes to Musa and she's bringing him back home to the house, she starts leading the way naturally. If you want to show someone the way, you walk in front of them and you help show them where to turn and how to get there. But Musa alayhi salam, he insisted for her to walk behind him, even though he did not know where they were going to go. And she said to him, "How will you know where to turn?" And he suggested to her to throw a pebble to the right or to the left if they have to turn in either direction. For many of us, we might think, what's the purpose? That's such a small detail. What does that add to the character or the story in general? What it adds is, you can imagine just from a practical sense, if you have a woman who is a stranger who is walking in front of a man, and the man is walking behind him. It is more likely that the gaze of the man might fall on that lady, even if it is unintentional. So to protect himself and to protect her from any fitna, from any test or trial, he suggested for the lady to walk behind himself. And then finally, to wrap things up, one of the daughters, she speaks up. And she says to her father, after hearing all this, she says, قالت إحداهما, one of them said, يا أبت استأجر, O my beloved father, استأجره, meaning hire him. Hire him. إن خير من استأجرت القوي الأمين. Excuse me. From amongst the best people that you can hire, this is the lady speaking, the daughter, she's saying, from amongst the best people that you can hire is the one who is strong, al-qawi, al-amin, the trustworthy one. And these two characters, or these two traits, are something that is very difficult for people to find today. Al-qawi is not just in terms of the strength, but ability itself. Does the person have the right qualifications? Do they have the experience needed? And you might find a lot of people with many different degrees and certificates, but how many of them are trustworthy, right? So it becomes very difficult, and here, this is happening a long, long time ago, several thousand years ago. And the world is not as connected as it is today. So this opportunity to meet someone who is both al-qawi and al-amin, who is a young man, who is unmarried, the father, he sees this as an opportunity. He sees this as a great opportunity. And once he hears his daughter speaking in this way, and she is saying to her father, hire him, the father comes with a suggestion. And he says, قال إني أريد أن أنكحك إحدى ابنتي هاتين على أن تأجرني 8 حجج. I want to marry off one of my daughters to you on the condition that you work for me for 8 years. 8 حجج. فإن أتممت 10 فمن عندك. If you complete 10, then that is from your own, from yourself, meaning out of your own generosity. So the father here, he is suggesting the marriage of his own daughter to this man. And this shows the importance as when it comes to fathers to look for a suitable candidate. Today, many fathers, they shy away from this responsibility, right? But there's nothing wrong with that. In Islam, a father can look for a suitable partner for his daughter. We see this in this story. In Islam, a woman can even propose herself, pass on a message and say, I wish to marry this man. Obviously, there needs to be the wali involved and so on, but it has happened. So we should not let the restrictions of our individual cultures overrule what is permissible in Islam, is the point. And the way that the man puts it, it might sound as if it is in his own favor, but in reality that is not the case. It is in the favor of Musa. Musa a.s. has no home, no house, nothing. And this man is not only suggesting to Musa a.s. to marry and to settle down, but on top of that, he's providing him work. He's saying, I'll hire you. You work for me. When you work for someone, there's a wage. There is a place to stay and so on. So this man, he is doing a lot of things out of his generosity to help Musa alayhi salam. And he sees, and this is the reward that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives to those people who believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and have this beautiful character. And finally, Notice how the man, when he suggests this to Musa alayhi salam, he says, "Satajiduni insha'Allah min as-salihin." That inshallah you will find me to be from the righteous people. He does not say, "Don't worry, I am righteous. Don't worry, I pray the salah. Don't worry, I am the Imam." No. He says, "Inshallah you will find me to be amongst the pious people." And why does he say this? He says this to show that piety, true piety, righteousness, it is not just confined in the place of worship. Now they have a contract between them. And he's reminding them that my righteousness, trying to be a good man, it is in all my dealings. You have nothing to fear, basically. And before that he says, وَمَا أُرِيدُ أَنْ أَشُقَّ عَلَيْكَ, and I don't want to make things difficult for you. So he's not pushing Musa alayhi salam to accept one suggestion over another. And Musa alayhi salam, out of his cleverness and his intelligence, what does he do? He leaves it open. And this, it shows us a good way of negotiating. That you should not rush into agreeing to things. You should take your time to think about it. Because Musa alayhi salam, he has two suggestions now. Is, you stay with me, I hire you for 8 years or 10 years. Musa alayhi salam doesn't say, hire me for 8 years, hire me for 10 years. He says, قَالَ ذَلِكَ بَيْنِي وَبَيْنَكَ. This is between you and I. It's a mutual understanding. Basically, it is a contract. And he says, أَيَّمَا الْأَجَلَيْنِ قَضَيْتُ فَلَا عُدْوَانَ عَلَيْهِ. Whichever one of the two terms that I choose, whether I stay for 8 years or I stay for 10 years, there should be no blame on me. So Musa alayhi salam is coming with his own condition, and this is something that is acceptable. And he ends it by saying, وَاللَّهُ عَلَى مَا نَقُولُ وَكِيلٌ. Verily Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that is responsible for what we say. Meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is knowledgeable and will hold us accountable for that which we say. So we will stop here inshallah, and we will open up for any questions that our brothers or sisters might have, either in person or through Zoom.